Welcome to the Literary Titan podcast. In every episode, we dive into a book we've just read and share our thoughts, from best-selling authors to rising literary stars. We read it. Now let's talk about it.
Pivoting from Blue by Skip Van Gardner is a deeply personal work of autobiographical fiction, family drama, and grief fiction, built around one chaotic, transformative year in its narrator's life. Divorce, aging parents, a father nearing death, family conflict, parenthood, physical and emotional upheaval, and a terrifying boat trip across the Gulf Stream all pile into what Gardner simply calls the year. The novel moves back and forth through those experiences, which makes sense because that's how the narrator experiences them. One problem changes how he sees another, and an event that initially feels disastrous can look completely different months later. The result reads less like a neatly plotted sequence of events, and more like someone trying to understand, in real time, how his entire life arrived at a breaking point, and what might be waiting beyond it. Gardner's first-person voice gives this novel most of its personality. He's profane, funny, angry, sentimental, self-critical, spiritual, and occasionally all of those things within a page or two. There's very little distance between the narrator and what he's feeling, so arguments, panic attacks, walks through the neighborhood, divorce mediation, hospice visits, dinners with his parents, and moments with his children can all carry surprising weight. Some of the book's most memorable writing comes from the contrast between ordinary details and enormous emotions. A fruit tree, a song, a sunrise, a recliner, a plate of fried conch, or a final handshake becomes part of the narrator's way of processing change. Music is especially important throughout the novel, functioning almost like an emotional map of the year. That openness also gives the book an intentionally sprawling quality. Gardner circles back to ideas, people, and grievances because the narrator himself is still working through them, and that repetition becomes part of the experience of being inside his head. At the center of this grief and spiritual fiction novel is a growing fascination with what happens when a person's familiar way of seeing the world collapses. The dangerous Bahamas crossing becomes the book's major turning point, leading to what the narrator calls the compression, an altered way of experiencing memory, color, sound, time, relationships, and faith. From there, walking, therapy, prayer, nature, and writing become tools for rebuilding his life. The book's spiritual passages, particularly his experiences involving the courts of heaven, are presented with the same conviction as the family and marital events surrounding them. Gardner isn't especially interested in separating the emotional, physical, and spiritual parts of his transformation. They're intertwined. That approach gives the novel its distinctive identity and turns a story about divorce and death into a broader examination of forgiveness, accountability, love, mortality, and the strange clarity that can arrive when circumstances force someone to confront himself. The final stretch brings the book's major threads together through the death of the narrator's father, the struggle over his mother's care, and his changing understanding of his marriage and family. Those chapters contain some of the book's sharpest anger, but they also reveal why so much of Pivoting from Blue has been concerned with memory. Gardner keeps returning to the question of what remains after a life is reduced to photographs, possessions, legal documents, stories, and the memories held by other people. By the end, writing itself becomes his answer. This contemporary family drama is ultimately about choosing to participate fully in life while there's still time to do it. Gardner closes the year with plenty of scars still visible, but also with a much clearer sense of what deserves his attention. That makes Pivoting from Blue an intimate, messy, frequently funny, spiritually charged story about a man discovering that surviving upheaval is only part of the journey. The harder and more meaningful work is deciding how to live afterward.
Thanks for joining us on the Literary Titan podcast. If today's review sparked your interest, be sure to pick up a copy of the book and experience it for yourself. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating, or share it with a fellow book lover. Until next time, keep reading, not just to escape, but to grow.